After the death of Praetor Shinzan, it didn't stop there. In 2381, the Remans demanded self-sufficiency from the Romulan Empire. They wanted either a continent on Romulus or a planet with enough resources to support settlements.
The Klingon Empire is now engaged in wars on two fronts. On one side, they are fighting the Gorn hegemony, and on the other side, they are continuing their push into Romulan space, grabbing more and more territory from the Romulans.
Civil war between the Remans and the Romulans has weakened both of the races, allowing the Klingon Empire ample opportunity to strike Romulus and retake territories long lost. Then, a border dispute between the Gorn and the newly emboldened Klingon Empire results in a second conflict for the warriors of Kronos. The Federation peace talks continue to fail, and the Klingons continue their wars.
Aggressive. And all this while, the Gorn-Klingon War continued to rage, eventually drawing the Orions in under the Klingon banner. It's not until 7 long years of war pass that the Klingons are able to achieve a decisive victory by seizing control of the Gorn homeworld. It's only then that the Klingons discovered the Gorn government had already fallen prey to the same alien plot designed to subvert their own High Council, a plot that kept war raging for 7 years. Of course, after the Gorn fell, the Nausicaan allies quickly followed suit. That's why when you play Star Trek Online, Klingons, Gorn, Nausicaan, Orions are all part of the greater Klingon faction.
Emboldened by their conquest over the Gorn, 405, the Klingons invade the sector. They begin by forcibly removing Federation civilians from the planet of Korvat. Starfleet is mobilized, and they establish a blockade to stop the Klingon incursion.
You got incoming. We have Klingon attack cruisers breaching our flank. USS Hathaway heading to Sector Gamma. Corliss, cover our rear. Captain, the Cortez is gone!
A victorious captain is one who knows to use energy weapons to weaken enemy shields, exposing the hull of a foe so it can be crippled with torpedoes and other high-yield projectile weapons. Resourceful captains will also be able to recognize and utilize the different classes of starships. Cruisers as tanks, science vessels for support, and escorts for lightning strikes. Configuring and properly utilizing equipment, weapons, and bridge officers is also critical to combat success. A captain is only ever as good as his ship and crew.
Depends on what you want to do at any time as to how you allocate the power. It takes a little bit of time, so you can't switch from one to another immediately. You have to kind of think ahead.
Sooner or later, your ship will take damage, and you'll need to repair it. So how do you do this in STO? It's really no fun to have to get onto your bridge, walk down to engineering, hammer on a bunch of consoles to try and get things to work. So in the game, a lot of that stuff takes place behind the scenes. We really try and keep you in the action and make sure that the things that are most important to you are things like redirecting shield power, making sure your hull damage is not critical. So fans have been wondering if there are boarding parties in ship-to-ship combat. Well, yes, there are. And the way boarding parties work is you target an enemy ship and you launch shuttles at them. And these shuttles take off from your ship and they head towards the target. When they get close enough, they beam on Marines and security officers that are going to run around that ship and try and take out their subsystems and also damage the crew, because that's actually going to impact the efficiency of that ship. So instead of directly taking out their shields or their hull, you're directly impacting their ability to be in combat, really.
The most basic strategy in starship combat is to maneuver your ship, use your energy weapons to bear on one section of your enemy's shields, knock those shields down, and then use your photon torpedoes on the exposed hull.
Cruisers are really tough. They take a lot of damage to take them down. They have a lot of crew, so they're hard to disable. This is really good for tanking. Second kind is an escort. Escorts are really fast, They're pretty maneuverable, they can dish out a lot of damage at one time, but they're pretty weak, so they're a lot better for dealing DPS. The third type is a science ship. Science ships are really good at increasing the abilities of you and your teammates, or decreasing the abilities of the enemy. They do crazy stuff like bouncing things off of deflector dishes or scrambling enemy sensors. It's really good at doing support.
On your ship. So for example, you and I may both have the same class of ship, but the items that I'm going to put on my ship might be different than yours. For example, some of the station mods that I put on my ship might impact my phasers or my torpedoes. There might even be a difference in our deflector dish, so some of your bridge officer powers, which you've also customized, may act differently depending on the gear that you've actually put in your ship, even though you and I have the same class of ship.
Find how you play in combat.
So your bridge officers in STO change how you play the game. You actually can select them, train them up, give them new abilities, they can learn abilities from new bridge officers, and they actually affect your powers that you have access to in space. For instance, you can have engineering bridge officers that are really good at fixing your ship or making it go faster. Those are the ones I tend to pick so that I can be a little more durable and have some escapability. But you can also get engineering bridge officers that will give you extra power to your engines or your weapons. Tactical officers will allow you to fire multiple torpedoes at once or really overload one phaser and shoot one giant beam of energy. Science guys will let you do things like mess up your enemy's sensors, make it so they can't target you, confuse whether or not they know who's a friend or a foe, or boost your friendly ships, make their shields better, make their sensors more effective.
We are the bulwark. Resistance is...
In the year 2161, the United Federation of Planets was founded. Its mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life forms and new civilizations. However, even those who strive for peace must be prepared for war. Boldly go where no one has gone before.